Hello, welcome to episode 3 of Flick Fusion, and we will be going over Beetlejuice by Tim Burton, released in 1988. Um, our actor that plays Mr. Beetlejuice is Michael Keaton himself, Batman, right? Um, Lydia is played by Winona Ryder. Gina Davis plays Barbara. Alec Baldwin plays Adam, which I did not know. Well, I found out like 2 years ago. Catherine O'Hara plays Delia. She also plays Sally in The Nightmare Before Christmas. Um, Jeffrey Jones plays Charles. We won't talk about him much due to things he's done. If you'd like to
Not very
find
good
out,
things.
yeah, not very good things. If you'd like to find out, you can search it up yourself. And Glenn Shadix as Otho, and Sylvia Sidney as Juno, who passed away about 10 years after the film in 1989, I believe. No,
Yeah,
80, no,
I think
1998.
yeah.
1998. Yeah. Okay. So we start off with the intro where the camera pans over Alec, or not Alec, but Adam's little model of the town. And
Mhm.
I had just learned this, well, I didn't learn just now, but like a couple of weeks ago, I was watching a Beetlejuice video, and the theme song, the dun 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 dun, dun, right, the theme song for Beetlejuice,
Mhm.
obviously Danny Elfman made the score, but he was saying in the interview how when he gave it to the musicians to play, like they're like, this is impossible, because like they would have to like play constantly, like so much
Mhm.
that they couldn't breathe,
Kind of
like,
nonstop.
yeah, like nonstop, like his expression was like their faces would be like, he's like, your until your faces turn purple is
Oh
when you like
no.
stop, because it's like constant, like right, it's just nonstop. And then all right, so in the very beginning, there's like, I remember when I was little, I always thought the spider was like a giant spider on a house, but then like it's just the house model,
It's the baby. Yeah.
right? And then um what's his name again? Adam? It's so weird.
Mhm.
Alec, Adam. I'm getting it confused. So Adam captures it and then tosses it out the window. And then Barbara, that's when Barbara comes upstairs and gives him a gift. And I don't
For
really
like,
know what it
I think it's
was. It was for the model,
um,
no?
I think it was for the model. Like, but they give the gifts for like their anniversary, right?
Yeah. And then he gives her like wrap
For like
wallpaper, I believe.
wallpaper to
Yeah.
decorate one of the rooms in the house. I think they said
Mm,
the guest room.
the guest room. Yeah, wallpaper. And then they like sit on like their couch, because in the attic the couch has like a cloth, and they end
Yeah.
up sitting on it, and then they get a phone call, but they play fight and kiss, where
Yeah,
like
they're
they
kind of
pull
just
each
messing
other.
around.
Yeah. And then that's when Jane arrives. They hear like her car park outside, so they check the window, and then they're like, oh, Jane. And then I think
Like,
Adam's
God
like,
dang it.
yeah, Adam's like, it's your turn. It's your turn to go talk to her. She's like, oh. And then
Jesus.
uh Jane just tries to convince him to sell the house. She mentions that someone in New York, like this guy in New York saw the house and would pay
Yeah.
like 26,000 for it or something.
hmm
And that same guy in New York is the family,
Yeah.
because
And
they
then
mentioned
doesn't
that they're from the city.
hmm And then there was also a part where like Jane, when she comes, Barbara's like, can you like stop like taking pictures of our house and like putting
Yeah.
them online? Cause
Online.
like
That's cr-
stop.
yeah, that's weird.
And
And
then
then
there was also
I don't know if Jane's like their friend, or like,
I don't know if they just met because of like when they bought the house or like if they've been like or
if
like if they
Jane's like a, you know, those people that sell houses.
hmm
Like, I wonder if she's one of those, or she's just like a friend. I don't know.
or maybe she is one of those and she just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And then also, I was gonna uh, mention because there was a part where Barbara was like, or not Barbara, Jane was like, "Oh, like this is supposed to be a house for like the family," And then
hmm
like on Barbara's face, you can tell like, oh geez. So can she not like have kids?
Oh yeah, I figured that too. Like, is she like I wouldn't say not fertile, but like struggles to like get pregnant,
Hmm.
right? Because she's like, this is a house like that like should be full of kids, and then like Barbara like seems sad, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, pumpkin, like I didn't
Yeah.
mean that. So I'm guessing they can't. I guess that's why like even though they've been
Mhm.
high school sweethearts, like they haven't been able to have kids.
Yeah.
And then that's when Shane leaves, and then Adam's in the damn like
Basement.
garage. Is he in the
Yeah.
basement or the garage? I think it's the
Um,
basement, no? Yeah.
I think it is the basement because there's like nothing.
And then he like opens a window and like Jane's like
Yeah.
right there. And then he's like, no.
He's like,
And
no,
he like
Jane.
closes it. And then what happens after that? Oh, and then Adam says like he needs tongue oil for a brush and then a new model part. So
Hmm.
he's like,
Yeah.
let's go to the store. So then they go, and then they get to the store, and they actually own it. It's called I
Hmm.
wrote down here Maidland Hardware, because their last names
Oh
are like
yeah, the
Maidland.
last name. Hmm.
And then he like buys his like thing, takes it, and then they leave. And at first I thought they go home and then they go back, but no, they die right after that because
Yeah,
they're
because is it
they're talking about
isn't
vacation, and
hmm
then that's when they see the dog, and then the damn dog,
I
and then
know.
they crash into the bridge, and then the dog like steps off of the
Like
thing.
literally the dog decided to like just kill them
I
at
know,
the end.
right? The dog. It was actually Beetlejuice as the dog.
Imagine.
Imagine. That's crazy. But like it's kind of goofy how the dog is like balancing the car.
I know.
Like wouldn't
Like
the
there's
dog
no
have
way,
just like gone flying?
literally, there's no way the dog weighs more than the car.
I know, right? And then well, they fall into the water, and then right after that it's like the clocks turn on, and then the
Mhm.
fire turns on, and then they both like uh
Walk in the
walk
house
in. Hmm.
and they're like dripping.
Yeah, and then they're like freezing, so they go near the fire, and then like Barbara's like fingernails catch on fire. She's like,
Yeah. And then don't they realize like what the heck? Because like they didn't leave with the fireplace on.
mm-hmm. And that's when Adam, because she's like, how did we even get home? So then
Hmm.
Adam's like, I'm gonna go outside to retrace our steps, and he ends up in Saturn,
Hmm.
and then that's when the sandworm's there, and then Barbara pulls him in, and that's when you mentioned
And
that
then,
like he was
yeah,
gone
he's
for two
for like
hours,
yeah.
and then after that, Barbara discovers like the mirror. So then after she pulls him in, he's like, I have to show you something, and then she gets
Hmm.
the
And then she like
horse.
grabs a horse. Like,
Yeah. Nothing's. And then that's when and then she also mentions that when he was gone, like a book had appeared, and it was
mhm.
like the handbook
The
for the recently deceased, right?
yeah.
And then that's when they realize they're dead. And it goes to their bedroom, and then like um
Don't they wake up
Barbara
the next morning?
mm-mm, Barbara's confused, and then Adam's like he doesn't know how to read the book because it reads like stereo
Oh yeah,
instructions.
yeah, yeah.
And then that right after that, like Barbara like lays down on the bed, and then the camera pans to Beetlejuice, and like it
Oh
goes to his
yeah.
lair, and then he's like man, like he's like looking at like the Saturn worm, or like the sandworm,
Yeah.
and then he's like, damn, I need a job. He's like, let me look for business, and
He's
then
looking through a little newspaper.
yeah, and then he like turns a page, and then he's like, oh, like what a cute couple, and stupid. So he's like maybe I
He's
can
like, they're
trick them.
perfect.
Get
They're
perfect.
perfect.
And then the next shot after Beetlejuice is, I think, Barbara's cleaning the dust or the cobwebs in the attic, and then Adam's like sitting down. No, she's cleaning the cobwebs, and then
Oh yeah,
Adam
yeah.
Adam is placing the models of their funeral,
Hmm.
and that's when we get introduced to the
The
morning
family.
sun. Well, that's what that scene I wrote down in that scene. That's when we get introduced to the work in the morning sun song. The right banana, daylight coming, we
Mm-hmm.
wanna go home. Because that's when it first plays. And then
Didn't it
that's
play in
when
the intro, like right before the movie starts, but kind of like slow?
it was only the intro with like the logo where it's like how does it go? Hey
Yeah, like
yo, hey yo.
yeah.
And then like it gets darker, it's like daylight come and then it turns into
Mm-hmm.
like the theme song. That was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I know, I liked how they did that.
And then Jane arrives, but she's wearing all black, which was because of their funeral,
Right after, yeah.
right after their funeral. And then they wave hi to Jane, but she doesn't see them. And that's when the next night, like they go to sleep, and then Barbara wakes up
Mm.
and she's floating, right?
I know.
And they get woken up, because that's when the family like
The
is
family's moving in.
moving in, yeah. And then like Lydia, she doesn't even walk in, like she's sitting in the
I
chair,
know.
and like the
They like
movers like
push
bring
her
her
in.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's when like one of the workers drops like Delia's like sculptures, and
Oh
then
yeah,
she's like,
it
I
was
worked
like
hard
a
on that.
yeah. He's like you can see it on his face. He's like,
He's like, okay, man.
whatever.
And then after that, like it's so funny. Otho climbs through the window.
I know instead of
It's
going
so,
through the front door, he
and
like
she's like,
messes up the
Otho.
blinds and stuff.
I know he's like a big boy too, so like he just knocks everything over.
Yeah.
And then she had mentioned that she's like, oh, like Otho, like, did you leave the city for me? And then so I'm guessing like I don't know if Otho's like a friend or like,
Yeah, what is he to the family? Is he like an uncle or like a friend?
right? Because he lives with them,
Yeah, and then
right?
Lydia kind of like messes around with him, like thinking he's kind of like dumb. So like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, maybe a friend.
Yeah, and then she mentions that he's never been able to change a tire. So maybe he's like
Yeah,
an uncle. Maybe like Lydia's like brother or something.
I
Which
feel
kind of
like
makes sense due to like their personalities. Because remember, Lydia's
kind of
no, I mean not Lydia's brother. What the fuck? Delia's
the
brother.
yeah.
Because remember, she's a stepmom.
Mm-hmm.
Because Charles is completely different.
Oh,
He acts completely
maybe.
different. And then
Yeah.
maybe Otho could be Delia's stepmom. That's why, like, when he runs away, she's like, Otho, like, we're like, why are you running? Like, come help us. Like, you're my
Yeah.
bro, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe. And then, because he lives with them, which is
Yeah.
weird. Well, I don't think he lives with them because there's one night where they eat Chinese and he's not there. So I think he just visits a lot.
Probably.
But he does help. He's either a family friend or like Delia's brother.
Hmm.
And then that's when what's it called? Um that's when they get the spray paints and then
Oh yeah, they're going like throughout the house and like
mhm.
marking what they don't like and
And then
what they're gonna change.
they open one of the closets and they see Barbara hanging. She like rips off her face.
Yeah.
And then like they're like, oh, but then like they're saying because the closet's small.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that,
Wait, do they see her?
mm-mm,
No, huh?
no, the living ignore the
Yeah.
strange and unusual. I wrote that down. And then that's when Otho's like he was at his and he's like blue, green. And then they open the room that Charles claims, but he's not there yet.
Oh
They
yeah, yeah.
open it and then that's when it shows Barbara like head
Like
cut
holding
off,
Adam's head. Yeah.
Adam's head, yeah.
I thought that was
And
so cool on how they did that.
and then that's when the dad jump scares them because he's like, bah.
Yeah.
And then Delia is like, oh, and then he had mentioned that like, what are you guys doing? Like, this house is fine. Um,
Hmm.
like don't touch this room because this is my room, right?
Yeah.
It's like his work, his
Hmm.
office or something. And
Yeah.
then Delia like freaks out because she's like, if you don't let me remodel this house the way I want it, I will go crazy and I'll take you down with me. And then like,
Yes.
and then he's like, okay, you can remodel the house. It's okay.
Just
And then
don't
like,
touch this room.
I know. And then Barbara and Adam are like. what the hell is wrong with that
Like,
lady?
what is going on?
And then that's when they check the attic space, but Adam's like,
It's
it's funny, I wrote this, Adam's like headless body like runs up.
runs
And
up
it's
the
funny
stairs.
because Alec, like the actor, is like dummy thick. Because when he gets up and runs, like his literally his whole butt like hits the railing and like moves it. Like I thought he was gonna break the railing because he runs and his ass just hits the railing.
Like boing.
Yeah. And then he runs up and they're like, "Do you feel that?" And then they're like, "Huh?"
The
And then
door
that's
like
when the door
shut.
closed. And then yeah, so then Jeff is like relaxing in his Jeff Charles is relaxing in his
Yes.
office. In his in his office, and then Barbara's like mad because they can't scare them.
Yeah.
Or but then they don't realize that they don't see them.
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
So then she goes outside. But then like Adam follows her and then they're like calling for each other in Saturn. And
Oh
then
yeah.
that's when like she runs to Adam and there's like the door. And then I didn't realize this, but when the sandworm takes a bite at them, like Barbara like hits it in the nose.
Really?
Yeah, because there's a scene where they're at the door, but then the sandworm comes and it bites, and then she like goes like that, and then hits it in the nose, and it like
I
whacks its
didn't even
head,
notice that.
and then it goes back to eat them, but then they like go through the door.
Mm,
I didn't know. I never knew that either. I was like, huh. And then right after that, the family's eating Chinese takeout, right?
mm, yeah.
And then Lydia's just saying like she wants like a dark, like one big dark room, like the basement. And
She's
then
so like depressed. It's
I
so sad.
literally, and then they're just discussing about the house, and then like Delia's like everything goes, like I already called the furniture truck. And then like that the next day is when we see the furniture truck and like the construction
Hmm.
workers.
Yeah.
And then
Is that when they're bringing like all her sculptures?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of wrote this out of order, but after that that's when like the couple freaks out and they look through the handbook, but then there's like a letter in there inside the handbook, and
Hmm.
then they're like, what the heck? And then that's when the dad goes, and then they look at the note and it's like call Beetle guys, right? It's like
Hmm.
call Beetle guys, but then like the ending is torn off.
Yeah.
So then they're like, what? And then the dad goes to make tea, and that's when like the window gets fucking smashed by the sculpture, and
Yeah.
then they accidentally drop it on the mom, and then she's like, "Do you think I want to die like this?" And that's
She's
when
literally gonna get chopped off by her own sculpture.
mhm. And then from there, that's when Lydia sees the couple. She's like taking pictures of the house, and then
Oh
she sees the
yeah, he sees
couple,
them through the window.
and then Jane pulls up and she's like, "This is a skeleton key, so like give it to your father," but like she never does,
Yeah.
right?
And she like
And
it opens any
like
room to the
and
house.
yeah, any room to the house. And then she goes up there and she tries to open it, but then Adam's holding the door, and then I don't know what it was, like it was just like a green pole, like a green stick, and then he like
Yeah.
pokes the keyhole and like takes
Hmm.
it out. And then right after that, like as they're holding the door, that's when the commercial begins to play.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he just calls himself like a bioexorcist, and like
Yeah.
he's just like talking to them. It's like a commercial. And then I had wrote that ending that I told you about, or it was like, I'll eat anything you want me to eat. I'll swallow anything you want me to swallow. So come on down. I'll chew on a dog. I was like, huh?
I never knew he said that because he talks so fast in like the commercial that
Uh-huh.
I've never like actually listened to what he said. So
I
that's
know.
kind
And
of
the ending
crazy.
was like goofy too, because I was like, she's like, so come on down. And then like he's like, I'll chew on a he's like, I'll chew like when he because I always thought he said I'll chew on a dog, like a hot dog or something. But then like he says, "I'll chew on the dog," and then you hear like a dog barking in the background.
Oh no,
Yeah,
that's horrible.
yeah.
He be munching.
He do be mentioned. And then
Mhm.
that's when like it's an emergency, so then that's when Adam's like use the book for emergencies. So then he draws the door, knocks 3 times, and then like it opens. And then from there, Lydia sees like the green light. She's like,
She's like, what the heck?
yeah,
She's like, what kind of shenanigans is going on in there?
no, literally, her eyeballs are like, and then they walk through the door, and
That's when they go
yeah,
to like the little, what
oh
is it even called?
no, right after they go through the door, it goes back to the dad, and like he's just being weird, like it's that part where he's like whistling, and he has like the boat, he's like, and then
Oh yeah, yeah,
he like looks through the window, and like he's looking at the birds, and then the birds like eating like something dead, and then he's
yeah.
like, ew.
Ew.
And then I think Lydia, she goes like she like scares him because he's like, let me relax, and she's like, I
Oh
saw
yeah,
something, and then she's like, Lydia, like I don't got time for this, like let me
yeah.
relax.
Hmm.
And then the next scene is when they enter the waiting room, and I wrote down all the dead people. So there's that we saw. So there's the snake in the sleeping bag with like
Hmm.
the dude, and then the scuba diver that has like a shark on his leg, and then the chicken man that has like the chicken drumstick
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
in his throat.
Like the little bone sticking out.
Oh,
It's like,
and then I wrote down lady in half, like
oh
the one
yeah.
that got chopped.
Hmm.
And then it was weird because right next to her, there's like this emo dude. I don't know how he died, but he was just like wearing all black.
Oh, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
And
which one.
then the hunter, I think he got hung because it's the guy with the small head, the one that got his head
Hmm.
shrunk, because
Yeah, cause like his neck is like all
all like
like
stretched, yeah.
wrinkly.
And then that too, and like there's like a piece of rope like around it. So then I
Hmm.
was like, oh, like so he got hung. And then they speak with the appointment lady, and this is when I wrote down this when I wrote this down. Because she mentions like a D90, and then I'm like, okay. And then she mentions that in the afterlife you only get 3 D90s with Juno. Like you only get 3 class 1 D90 intercessions with Juno, right? And then I'm like, oh, like interesting. Because like they
Yeah,
only talk to Juno how many times? Twice?
twice. One when they
That
first get there, no,
uh-huh. And then the second
and
time
then the
to like
second
scare the
one's
family.
yeah, with
Yeah.
like all the football players, right?
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
then Lydia jams the door with the screwdriver. She's like,
Oh yeah, and then it opens.
mm-hmm. Because it pokes out the little green thing.
Hmm.
And then she gets in the attic, um, and then she's just looking around, and it goes back to the appointment, the waiting room, and that's when
Yeah.
like the burnt guy, like this the one that has a
The
smoking addiction,
yeah.
he's like, you want one? And then
It's
he's like,
like
no, he's like, yeah, I know, like I've been cutting down myself. He's like,
really?
and it's funny because I don't know if you noticed, but his knee is like going crazy. Like he's like, I've been cutting down myself, and he's like,
No.
and like his knee, you know how like when people are like addicted to something, and they're
Yeah,
like,
like they kind of anxious a little bit.
mhm, like you just see his leg, like,
He's like, I'm cutting down, and you're like, oh yeah, I can tell.
yeah,
I
he's
can
like,
tell.
that's funny. And that's when like Adam goes to ask the fairy something. I forgot what he asked, but then she's like, that's what happens when I die. That's what happens when they die, and that's what happens when you die. And then she's like, if I would have known it was like this, I wouldn't have had my little accident. And she like lifts up her
Yeah,
wrists.
her. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then that's when that's when like the flat guy comes to the door and he's like Maitland's meeting, right? And then they're like, oh, that's us. And then they're like,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you bring your handbook. They're like, fuck, we forgot it.
Like, handbook?
Handbook?
Hey.
And then I think he tells him to go to the sixth door. Yeah, he tells them to go to the sixth door. So they follow him through like the little back area of the
Yeah.
appointment, and it's like skeletons doing paperwork. And
Yeah.
then there's that one guy that's like hanging and he's like
Oh
spinning.
yeah, he's like
Yeah,
drop the thing. Isn't
drop
he
the
the one?
paperwork.
Isn't he dropping? Yeah, he's dropping papers.
Yeah, and then they're like sixth door, so then they keep walking, and then that's when they get to the hallway with the janitor,
Mm,
and that's when they first see the room of the lost souls,
yeah,
and it's like a room
that's
that
kind of
has like
creepy. Their faces
uh
are all
they're like
gross.
oh, and then he tells them that like they're the souls of ghosts that have been exorcised, which I never paid attention to that, so
Mm-mm.
I was like, oh, that's cool.
I thought they were just ghosts that
Like
were just in
just
there.
in there. Yeah, right. And then they get to the sixth door and they walk in and they're like, what is this place? And then that's when they realize it's their house because
It's their
it's
house.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's completely different. And then they're like, how long have we been in the waiting room? And that's when Juno comes up and she's like, 3 months. And then they're
That's
like,
crazy.
yeah,
It's crazy how fast time flies.
uh-huh. That is kind of crazy. It's like, huh.
I know like that, and then like when Adam like fell with the worms
hmm
outside, or he walked
I
outside.
I feel like time only changes when they're outside of their house.
Yeah,
Like, because every time they go to like the
to like
Saturn, like
somewhere else.
yeah, like the time changes, but when they're in their house, it's normal.
Yeah,
And then when they go to the appointment, like the other side, like time, it's like going super fast. And then so they speak with Juno about like getting rid of the deets.
mhm,
And then she's just telling them to like practice, get scary. And
yeah.
then she gets that call. It's like do 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 do, and she's like, "Oh, I gotta go." And then that's when Barbara asks
Didn't
about
she
the
like disappear?
no. She asks about Barbara asks about what about that beetle? And then she's like,
Oh yeah. She like we don't say his name.
yeah. She's like, you know what? Like just because I don't want you to make the mistake, I'll tell you right now. And then he's like, that's when she says that he used to be her assistant, but then he
Hmm.
became a troublemaker, went on his own as a bioexorcist. And then and then he tells them that he's been chilling in their cemetery,
Yeah,
like the one in the model.
yeah.
And then they're like, what?
So I'm like,
And
how
then
is this possible?
hmm and then we had searched it up yesterday how it was possible,
Oh yeah.
remember? And then his disclaimer, I guess after like all the stuff that Beetlejuice did, he got like he got banished or whatever. So
Hmm.
they had like I don't know if it was Juno or whoever, but they had shrunk him and
Hmm.
put him in like
In
a
the
town
box.
model. But then
Yeah.
he managed to make his way from that regular town model to like
So,
the Maitland's
yeah.
town model.
Hmm.
And then because they banished him, and then after he saw them in the newspaper, like
Mm,
he's like, oh,
yeah.
like I gotta go
Like
with them.
yeah.
And
He's
then
like, these are my people.
yeah, and then it said that like I guess like if you say his name 3 times, it like temporarily like releases him from his banishment. But then
Hmm.
if you say him again, it puts him back. And
Yeah.
then that's when he has like all the power and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then if he gets married on the outside, like they can't do anything to him
Yeah.
anymore, right?
Yeah.
And then let me see here. And then from there she disappears. Oh, and then right after that, like I think Barbara's like, "Is that creepo really in our cemetery?" And they leave, and that's when
Yeah.
the fly goes, and it's like going through the cemetery. And he's like, it's like a
He
chocolate bar.
like yeah, he like, hey, come
Yeah.
here.
He's like, "Hey, come here." He's like, "I got something good for you." Right? And then he's like, "Hey, come here, nice and delicious." And then like he's like, "Help me, help me,
Help
help
me.
me." He eats the
That
fly.
was
You.
so funny. I know you. It's little guts.
I feel like
He'd be like,
Michael Keaton was really good as Beetlejuice.
he
Like it's
really
so
is.
good. Oh, and then that's when they take Juno's advice because right after that the dad is talking to Maxie something. I forgot his last name, but he's talking to the couple that go at the end, like the rich ones,
Oh yeah,
and he's talking to him about investing in the town because like they can add like a zoo and like all this stuff, right? And
yeah.
it'd be like they can make like thousands of dollars, but then
Mhm.
like the guy's like what like okay whatever dude, and then
Yeah.
that's when he hears like the ooh, and then he's like Lydia, like come on, like go bother your mother, and then
Mhm.
he's like, do you know who
He
I was
kind
on
of
the
just
phone with?
like, yeah.
Hmm. And then they go to the mom, and then she like turns off the TV to mute them or whatever. No,
Yeah,
she mutes the TV thinking it's the TV, and she's like,
because they be too loud. Too loud.
"Mm-mm." And then that's when Lydia like
Loaded, yeah.
comes out of nowhere and takes a picture of them because she
Mhm.
thinks it's
It's the
Charles
mom. Yeah.
and the mom and dad because she's like, whatever freaky
Go do
stuff you
that.
guys are
Yeah.
doing, yeah, go to
Get
your
a
room.
room.
Yeah. And then that's when she sees like they have no feet. So then she's like, oh like what's going
Yeah,
on?
she's
She's
like, what
like,
do you look like under there?
uh-huh. She's like, are you like what was it?
Gross.
She's like, are you gross or like Night of the Living Dead under there? Right. So then they talk with Lydia and then she had mentioned that the reason she can see them is because she had read the
She,
handbook,
yeah.
and it's like living people ignore the strange and unusual, and she's like, I myself
I
am
am a
the
strange and
strange and
unusual.
unusual. And then that's when they take Lydia up to the attic, and then they just show her like the attic, and they tell her that they
Hmm.
can't leave, and then she's like, tell me I'm dreaming. So then they're like, I don't know. So then she's like, you're gonna have to like try harder because like they invested a lot of money in the house.
Yeah.
So then they're like, you gotta come up
Like
with
they're not
something.
going nowhere.
Yeah, because I think she had mentioned that like once Delia like starts a new routine, like it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, that's when she tells the mom about the ghosts. And you're right, she
Yeah.
does tell the mom about the ghosts that they want
She tries
them
to
to
like
leave.
show him the she tries to show her the pictures, no?
Hmm. And she's like chopping up that whatever it is.
I
She's
know
like,
she's like
she ain't got no time.
she's going super fast.
And she just says like Lydia, like whatever it is, like I don't care. Like we have like a dinner coming up,
Yeah,
like
like we
and
have
like
guests coming
don't
over, like
embarrass me.
yeah.
And then that's when they're just chilling in the attic talking and
Hmm.
they notice the light, like a blinking light coming from the cemetery.
Oh yeah. And isn't that when
And
they first meet Beetlejuice?
uh-huh. And they're like they look at each other and then Adam's like, say it, and she's like, Beetlejuice. And they say it three times and they end up in the cemetery and then like they walk up to his grave and they're like, what do we do? And then the shovels fall. They're like,
Uh,
and then they
and that's
like,
crazy too, how you were saying like Beetlejuice is like what, 40 minutes, 30, 40 minutes into the movie? Like
uh-huh.
that's the very first time we see him.
Yeah, because the movie's an hour and
Like an
32
hour and
minutes.
yeah.
So you don't see Beetlejuice until like the 45-minute mark,
And that's
which is
crazy because
crazy.
like it's Beetlejuice.
It's Beetlejuice. And it also feels like because he's not the main character and it's funny because it's called Beetlejuice, but he's not the
But he's
main
not the main,
character.
yeah.
But like it's funny because he's not the main character and then only comes out till like half of the movie, but it
Yeah.
feels like he's in it so much more, right?
Yeah, that's why like when we were talking about it and you were like, "Oh, like did you like even realize like he's like not even in the movie till like the 45-minute mark?" I'm like, "There's no way that that's even possible."
I know. I was pretty surprised. Love it. And then they start digging and then from there
Don't they
that's
finally
when
get to the bottom?
Yeah, they get to the bottom, they're like, what do we do now? And then like it starts
And he
shaking.
starts shaking.
Uh-huh.
It's like,
And
oh,
then it starts playing his theme song too, because like he like I like the part. I'm pretty sure they put Michael Keaton on like wires or something.
I'm sure they did.
Cause that was pretty cool. Cause like they run out of the grave, and then he pops up, and I like how Michael Keaton like takes off his hat. He's
He's
like,
like,
yeah, and then he like starts floating towards them,
he's like,
and
shh.
I know he's like, and
They
then
look
he
so fun.
yeah, and he like drops right next to them, and then that's when we get introduced to Mr. Beetle guy, and then that's when he as soon as he lands, he like kisses Barbara, and then he's like, hey, like, and then he's like, all right, like, who do I have to kill? And then they're like, you don't have to kill anyone. He's like, okay, possession then. And then, like, that's when he
They're like,
possesses
"Mhm."
Barbara.
Yeah,
And then he's like, know your friend, meet your barber. And then, like, they're like, what the hell? And then they're like, and then Adam's like, what are your qualifications? And that's when he gets serious because he's like, well, I went to
well,
Juilliard. He's like, I went to Juilliard. I went to Harvard Business School. He's like, I travel occasionally, and then he's like, and I lived through the I lived through the Black Plague, and
yeah,
then he's like, well, it it doesn't make sense. Well, he's like, well, I mean, you're talking to a dead guy, right?
yeah.
And then so is he already dead? Because he mentions it. He's like, you're talking to a dead guy. So it's like, what is
So he
he?
has to be, because he's
Like,
not human.
he's not okay. He's not human. He's dead, but he's not a ghost either, because he's like way more powerful than a ghost.
Yeah.
Unless he is a ghost, it's just like you said, like the longer they're dead, the more powerful they are. And like since like
So he
he
has to
missed
have been
and
dead
the
for
reason
quite a while.
quite a while, yeah, and the reason that it's the Beetlejuice because of the banishment thing. So
Hmm.
he probably is a ghost, but like how come after the oh okay that makes sense because I remember reading that like when the sandworm eats him it's not like his
Hmm.
first time dying because the
Yeah.
only reason he goes to the waiting room is to meet with his caseworker to speak about his to review his like his sentence and like his debt because he's just like in
Yeah.
so much trouble
Hmm.
because of like messing with the family like trying to get married on the outside like
He
all this
breaks
stuff.
all the rules.
He literally, after his banishment, he still breaks all the rules.
Literally.
And then, oh, he had said, I think he had, he had done 167 bioexorcisting. So I think that's how many people he's like killed or possessed.
Jesus.
Yeah. And then they're like, no, like, no, no, like, we just need you to be scary. And then he's like, oh, okay. Like, is
Oh,
this scary? And he's like,
I know that was easy.
and then
And
they're
then
like,
like, does it? He like starts spinning his head at one point.
yeah, they go speak about it. And then, like he like lifts up Barbara's dress with a stick,
Yeah.
and then she's like, hey, hey,
He's
hey,
like,
and then they're like, we're out of here. So then he jumps on Adam's back, and
he's
he's
like,
like,
no,
come on. He's like, bro, like we
like we're
shop at the
matching.
same store. We're matching. He's like, hey, hermano, right? It's funny. And that's when he's like, watch this, and then he like spins his head.
Yeah, I thought
Oh
that was creepy.
no, he hasn't exorcised people. He's watched The Exorcist 167 times.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why
but
he does
still,
it already. And so then he does the head spin and then that's when he's like, come on, come with me. Like I'll make some dinner in my place. And as he's walking away, she's like, home, home, home. And they go back to normal, right? And
mm-hmm.
then I really like this. He walks up, he's like, I hope you like Italian. And he like turns around, he's like, hey,
Like, hey, where'd you go?
he's like, he's like, hey, where'd you go? And then he starts talking he starts talking like Italian. He's like, come on, man. I just trying to make a deal with you.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he gets mad and he kicks the tree. And then he's like, nice fucking model. Uh-uh.
Uh-uh.
And then at the next day, Adam's like putting the tree back. It's funny. He's like putting the tree back, and then right after that, they talk about Beetlejuice, and then it goes to the dinner scene.
Oh yeah, I that's my favorite part.
It's your favorite part. I know it's
Yeah,
so good. And then it's funny because the dinner, I feel like Beetlejuice had saved their dinner because it was so awkward. Because they're all just sitting there eating. Because like the Asian lady, she's like depressed because like I guess like she's like in theater and like a
does
house
she even
fell on.
talk?
No, not much. Because like I think Elsa is like she's like a house fell on her brother, and then like Delia thought it was a joke, but like I guess it actually happened because they work in like theater.
Yeah.
Because I guess she's like sad about like death or whatever.
Hmm.
And then it's like the rich lady and like some other dude. And then like Delia is like, say something, Charles. Like it's awkward.
Like
And
fix
then
this.
Elsa is like speaks about like the supernatural. And then
Hmm.
they're more interested in that than like
Yeah,
anything.
they're like, oh,
Ooh. And then um they're like and then that's when like Dilly is saying something, but then she stops and they're like, what were you gonna say? And then she's like, Dale, da da
Dale.
Dale. She's like, daylight coma igual. And then and like Charles is like laughing. He's like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
And then
like I think he thinks it's a joke, huh? Like
and then she's like, come on, work all night. And then like Charles is like, what the hell is happening?
that's when he's like, what's going on?
And it's like dragging him, like she's like dragging him
Like,
with
oh,
her.
oh.
Like, and then they're like, and then they all get up and they like grab hands, right? And they're like, a
Yeah, they're
booty
like,
call bunch. All right, banana. Daylight come and we wanna go home. And like Otho grabs the damn fucking like ice chest. He's like,
he like he
booty
dumps it.
call
He like,
bunch. Yeah, you're like, banana. It's so funny. And what do
and
they do next? Don't they like turn around and then they're like shaking their
they get on.
butts?
Yeah, they get on the train. They're like,
They're like, and then they're like, and then they're like zombies that like, they're like a black tarantula. They're like,
yeah, they're like,
and then after all of that, they like sit down, and that's
they
when
like
like the
scooch in.
shrimp hands
Yeah,
come out, and they like grab them
and then they all
and like
like go
pushes them,
back.
right? Yeah, and I think it was Adam and Barbara that did that,
Yeah,
and it's
because they
funny
go.
because the reason they picked that song is because it's like the song they always play in their attic.
Yeah, and then after that, the no, Barbara and Adam like run back to up to the attic
Hmm.
because they're like, oh my God, like we did such a good job, and then they're like waiting for them to run out, and they're like,
Hmm.
what's happening? Like, where
Like
are
what?
they?
And then like they're downstairs talking and they're like Lydia like or like they're like oh like they want to see the ghost now, right? And then I think the guests are like, how come you didn't tell us about these ghosts? She's like, well, it was a kept secret, right? And
Yeah,
then Lydia goes to talk to them and she's like, we don't want them in our house, right? Or like they're like, we're willing to share the house as long as like they don't make them do tricks and stuff, right?
yeah, like they're not little like pets.
Yeah. And
Like,
then
yeah,
like Lydia's like they won't come down, so that the guests are like they're not amused because like it's probably fake
yeah.
or whatever, right?
Hmm.
So then they leave, and then before they leave, like one of the guys is like, you're a flake and you've always been a
Oh
flake,
yeah,
right?
I'm like, dang.
I know, it's like
Like
Jesus.
he really went after
And then it was
Delia.
weird because he had mentioned that he was Delia's like like agent or
Yeah, I
like
guess for like her
something.
sculptures,
Yeah.
like her art.
But then he like roasts her at the end, and it's like Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at her sculptures and then like uh do you
We'll
really
talk
want to
about
buy
that.
that? It's like I've lost so much money
That's
off of
true.
your artwork.
Literally,
I'm
that's
like,
true.
dang.
Oh yeah, he like said he like invested all this just for what?
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, they're like the dad's talking about using the ghost for profit. And then that's when they go upstairs because Delia is like mad. She's like,
Yeah,
I don't care what they want. She's like, open up.
open up, and
Yeah.
then it like opens,
Like,
and then
and then
that's when
like
they see the model of the house, huh?
hmm no, the model of like the whole
Or the
town.
town. Yeah,
Yeah. And then they look around and then Delia's like, all right, like let's leave, like come on, Charles. And then Otho finds the handbook and he's like,
he let
oh
no one
shit,
sound.
no one saw nothing. And they're like hanging out. It's funny because well, I don't understand why they're hanging outside the window if they can't see them.
Yeah, like, or do you think they did that because maybe now, or okay, so
Now that they, yeah, like you said, like the
now that they,
living ignore the
yeah,
stranger, but now that
th- now
they
they,
know and they accept
yeah,
that there's ghosts in their house, they could see
they're
them.
like, yeah,
That's pretty interesting.
yeah, and then, so like, you know how they're hanging out the window?
Yeah,
Um, like, so like they can be hanging out the window, but like if they step outside, because they're technically outside,
I think
so
they'd have
like
to
if
be touching like
like
outside
touching the
ground.
ground,
Yeah, because
yeah,
because when Adam goes outside, he's on the
hmm,
porch and he walks down the steps
the
even,
steps, and
and
then,
nothing happened. But as
yeah,
soon as he touches the world
the,
floor,
yeah,
it teleports onto Saturn. And
mm,
that's how like the ghosts get eaten by the sandworm.
mm,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Um, and then like they're hanging, and then they hear Beetlejuice laughing, and that's when they lift up, and they're like, "Oh shit!" Like is he gonna do something? And then it's weird because he's laughing, and then he ends up attacking the family. But how if they didn't say his name?
Oh,
So did he have that power the whole time? Because you hear him laughing from the model, and then as they're walking down the stairs, the mom puts her hand on the railing, and he's like
yeah, and then he's a snake.
he's the snake on the railing.
Oh, I didn't even notice that because
But
the last time we saw him was when they first met him, right?
uh-huh. Oh, I know why. Oh, it's
Oh,
so
because
smart.
oh wait,
They never put him back to
they
the
never, yeah,
banishment.
they just said home, home, home,
Home, home, home. They never said
and
Beetlejuice,
they never.
Beetlejuice.
Oh, okay. Oh
So
my God.
it was like his little plan. Like they're like, oh, like they said my name, like, come on, work with me. And then, cause he rather than going to the real world,
Dang.
he stayed small, right, to bring him
Mm-hmm.
there. So then they're like, home, 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 like he can't do anything. But then like
Yeah.
that's why when the family is there and they're hanging, he's like laughing because he's like all like he's like, yes,
Dang.
I
I
can go
didn't
kill
even
them.
notice that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because at the end they try saying his name again to put him back in the banishment.
Mm-hmm.
That's I like how we discovered that about the banishment because now you'd be like,
Yeah.
what does that happen? So
Mm-hmm.
then, oh, that makes so much sense why he has all that power. He was just
Yeah.
like waiting. He was like playing his cards, right? And then he
That's
attacks the
crazy.
family as a giant snake with like a Beetlejuice
Yeah.
head. And
I thought
then,
that was so crazy how they did that because
Mhm.
like he looks so real.
Right?
Like obviously his face doesn't look real, but like he looks like real in like the movie,
The movie. I
like the
also like
snake
how
skin and like the
they do the shot where the mom's like
is
grabbing
like
the railing and
running
then
her. Yeah,
it slowly turns into the snake and she like,
she's like, this don't feel right.
I know. And then it scares the mom, and then he like slaps like Otho's butt and he like falls down the stairs. Or like I think he like slaps his legs or something to trip him.
But he goes falling down.
And then the dad like tries to enter his office, but then Beetlejuice like
It grabs him.
grabs his leg and then like drops him. And then he says something about like he says something Chuck and like drops him.
Yeah,
And then that's when Barbara runs on. She's like, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. And then
yeah,
he's
because
like,
doesn't he start
oh
getting close to
man.
like Lydia? Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's like, because I think he's like, oh, like I see something I like or something like that.
Yeah,
And then she like calls him and then like he's like, oh man. And then it's like, boop, and the railing's
yeah.
back. And she's like, why are you doing this? It's
Just
like, I
leave
don't,
me alone.
just leave me alone. And she like hides in her room. And then that's when I think they go back to the attic and they check the model because they run
Oh
back
yeah,
to
yeah,
go
yeah.
check on Beetlejuice if he's there. And then like
Mm-hmm.
you see him like you see like a hydrant like go like
Just
because he
yeah,
crashes a
he
car
crashed the car.
and he like dives out the door and he's like rolling. He's like, oh,
He's so
and then
mad.
I know he because he's like driving through the town, and I'm guessing he's so mad he crashes, and then he rolls
Yeah.
out, and he's like, "This is all your fault." Like, he's like, "I'm the professional here." It's so funny, and then Barbara like picks him up, and she's like, "Why
Yeah,
did you
cause
go do that?" And then he's like,
yeah,
"Ching!"
cause
He
I
like
think
gets all
also
spiky.
he mentioned something about like Lydia.
Oh yeah, he's like that hot. No, he didn't call her hot. He's like that girl in black. Like he like
Yeah,
says
he said
something like a
something.
comment that like he wants to be
Yeah,
with
and
her or
then she like,
something.
yeah,
He's like,
she like grabs him. She's like, you don't talk to her. Like, yeah,
oh
you don't.
yeah, you don't talk to
Yeah,
her. And then he's like, ah, and he like lets out the spikes, right?
no spiky.
Uh-huh. And then I realized like if he lives in the model town, what isn't he just like jump out of it? But then no one would know he's there, right? Like he'd be lost. Like a like a tiny Beetlejuice like
It's
running.
like,
He's like, get away from me. Or like you're like sleeping or like you're like walking down up the attic and then you see little Beetlejuice like hopping down the steps
like,
like you messing with the little professional here,
yeah.
right? It's like I'll, yeah, I'll kill you. It's funny.
Oh, that's too funny.
And then that's when like he's like dusting off his clothes
Yeah,
and
he's
and
like
then
getting unstuck from the fake grass.
oh yeah, she drives me. He's like and then he's like, what's like, I need something to let off some steam. And then like the whorehouse like spawns. And then he's
Uh-huh.
like, oh yeah. And so then Juno spawns a whorehouse and like he's like humping the air towards it. It's funny. And then they get teleported to Juno's office, and then there's a football team bugging her, and then they ask her, she had summoned them there because like of Beetlejuice and like the extras like learning about like life beyond like afterlife,
Yeah,
and then like the football team doesn't know where like she's like hit the showers. They're like, where are the showers? And then so she's like, I'll be right back because she has to like go take them.
yeah. Aren't they like, Coach, where's the men's room?
Uh-huh. And then there is um something about Beetlejuice being dead over 600 years. She had said something about that, like dead over 600 years. And then
I think didn't she mention that like when like she was talking to Barb and Adam because they had let him out,
uh-huh.
and then she was like, I think she was like telling them a bunch of stuff. I think.
But like I wrote down here dead over 600 years, and then right after that she mentions proof existence beyond death. But like
I think she had mentioned that because, well, at first when she first like mentioned Beetlejuice, she had told them like never to
mhm.
like summon him, but then they did anyway. So I think now she's kind of like explaining like, oh, like kind of like not his backstory, but like
Like he
a little
hasn't
bit
been
more
free
about
for
him.
like 600 years or something like
Yeah,
that. And then that's crazy. That means he's like super old then. But
he
like
has to be like super.
how would he be over 600 years if he has like a bus driver outfit,
I know.
right? And like he's so
I
like
know.
knowledgeable about stuff. I guess he
That's why I
learns
kind
from
of wish.
I guess it's probably because since he's always attacking like real people, he like learns about stuff over and over.
Yeah,
Like how he mentions he watched The Exorcist, like he probably stole like the movie from like the real world and like just watches it.
yeah. I feel like he's probably like learned some
Uh-huh.
stuff.
And then it goes back when she Juno takes into the showers, it goes to the family and they're outdoors and like drinking. And then they're just
Oh
talking about
yeah,
how Maxie Dean is like going the next night, so they gotta like prepare something, right?
yeah.
And then It goes to Lydia writing her suicide note. It's like,
Oh
I
yeah.
made it down the
Literally
Winter
depression.
River Bridge. And then
I'm like, oh no.
that's when Juno's like, let me see your scary face.
Yeah.
And then
They make like these gross looking faces.
yeah, they make their faces, and then she's like, all right, like now go scare
Like,
them. So then they go
yeah.
through the hallway and they're just like thinking about Lydia because like Adam's like, we gotta scare him out, but then like Barbara's like,
Barb's
I
like,
really
no,
like
like
that girl.
yeah. Like, and then she's like, before they walk in, she's like, I want to be with Lydia. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, so sweet.
And then during all that, Lydia goes to
Lydia's
the
talking to
attic.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah, she goes to the attic to check out the model, but then like she's like walking, and then like he's like, hey, over here. And then
Yeah.
she's like talking to him,
Like,
and then he's like, like they're just talking, and then he's like, well, if you want me to help you get to the other side, like you gotta help me first, right?
yeah.
And then he's like, he's like, let's play, like you gotta like, I gotta get
They're like
married,
playing,
this and
yeah,
that, and then they play like charades or
like
something.
charades.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
to
then
guess his name.
he's like, just look behind you, and then it's
Yeah.
like, hey, what's up? And it's like a beetle,
Yeah.
and then she's
Beetle,
like,
she's like, Beetle.
orange drink, orange beverage, like orange breakfast, and
No, I'm not done. We're talking about the movie. Go. I already told you. Or stay right there, but don't make any noise. Being serious.
then she says his name twice, and then that's when she realizes he was a snake. So then she's like,
She's like,
I don't
yeah.
know. And then right before she
And
says
then
it again, like that's when Barbara comes in.
Barb and Adam.
She's like, no. And then they
And then they
stop
like
her.
scare her.
Yeah, they like
They
take her,
like
and
scare her
then
with their faces.
and then Peter's just like, just say it, and he like falls off the balcony.
She's like, wee.
And then what's it called? Lydia tells him that like if she helped him, like he would help her get to the other
Help her
side.
get to the other side to
And then
find them.
yeah, and then she is like, no, like being dead doesn't make things easier, right?
Yeah.
And then Adam turns and he has like the big nose, and she like
Yeah.
laughs. And then that's when the family goes upstairs and they take the models, right? And they bring them
Hmm.
downstairs. And then um they Charles is talking to Maxie Dean about like the town and stuff, and then they go to
Hmm.
Otho and they're like, that's when Maxie Dean's wife is like, what about the supernatural that you told us about, or
Yeah.
the ghosts? And then
Because
they're
isn't
like,
she like big on ghosts?
uh-huh. And then
Yeah.
Otho's like I know a lot about the supernatural, and then he like takes out the handbook, and then he's like, I need something personal of theirs, and that's when Delia remembers the wedding
The
clothes.
wedding dresses. Yeah.
So then they put the wedding clothes, and then he like says like a chant. It's like something 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 something, right? It's
Yeah.
like 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 leopards,
I, yeah.
like
It's
women cry.
some.
It like rhymes though. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then Barbara manifests into the clothes when Adam tries to go like hold her
Hmm.
hand. And then I had wrote down something, and one of the parts he mentions deadly night or deadly shade or nightshade or something like that.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, like
Like Nightmare Before
Nightmare
Christmas.
Before, that's what she uses
Yeah.
from the gravestone. Because he even says he's like deadly like nightshade, or he says something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like write that down. And then
Write that down.
Lydia's like, oh, they're dying, and then because they're
Yeah,
getting
because they're getting all
exercise.
crunchy.
Hmm.
They're getting all crunchy.
And they're starting to look like the corpses in the lost souls room. So
Hmm.
then Otho's like, I can't stop it, like it's too late. So then Lydia
Yeah.
goes to the model downstairs, and like Beetlejuice is already waiting there in like his
Like
clothes.
he already knows.
He already knows. And so then like she's like, I need your help. And then he's like, And then he's like, you gotta go save them. He's like, all right, like you want to go save them. I want out. Like we got to get married. And then she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, like, okay, just go save them." And then that's when he like dusts off the dust. And then he's like waiting. And then she's like, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. And then he's like, it's showtime.
It's showtime.
And then that's when he appears as like a little like with like I don't know
Yeah,
what it
like the
is.
little carousel.
Carousel, yeah.
Yeah.
And then like his arms, he's like step right up,
Not.
test your
Mhm,
strength, and then he's like,
mhm.
yeah.
And then like
And
the little like like
the
the
family,
what is yeah, what are they called? The
uh, I think they test your strength where it's like you hit
yeah,
the like the thing with the hammer, and it makes the ball try to hit the bell, right?
yeah.
But like
And
they
they're
go
like right behind
flying.
the Mac, what is his name? Maxine? Maxine?
Maxie and his wife, Maxine Bean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and he
They're
like
like
hits
right
them,
behind it.
yeah.
They're like, shoo.
They literally go through the roof to the hall,
Yeah,
and
because you can see
then
it like on their face, like they're all happy and stuff, but then they're like,
mhm. And then like the family's like,
shoo.
oh, and then Beetlejuice like he like jumps into like the shot of the camera, and then he's like, oh, like thank you, like that's why I stopped doing two shows a night. I just
Mm-hmm.
can't, I just can't.
I can't. It's too much.
And then he's like he like uses like his power or whatever and knocks over like Barbara and Adam, and I guess it like he
Yeah.
like stops the exorcism, right?
Yeah.
Because he like does something, knocks them over, but it stops whatever was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, now that that's taken care of, like he's like combing his hair, and then he's like, shall we? And it plays like dun 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 dun.
And then he's like in a red suit and Lydia's in her
And
red dress.
that's cute. And then he's like, oh, like we need witnesses. And then
Yeah.
he like whistles, and then the sculptures go and like
Oh
hold
yeah.
the parents. And then he like snaps his fingers, and the fireplace like comes up,
Yeah, it's
and
like yeah.
the little dead dude like comes in, the meme
He like
mams.
ding, ding. Literally, he like ding, ding, ding.
He's like,
Got his little book in his hand.
and then I think it goes to the couple like regaining their power or regaining life, their
Yeah,
life, right?
life,
And then
whatever life they have.
life, yeah. And then like they're doing their vows, and then he's like, uh do you, Lydia, take this man? He's like, no, Beetle. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, she's just shy. And then he's like, it's like,
He's like,
I got this. He's like, she's like, I'll
I'm
speak for
Lydia
her.
D.
I, Lydia Dietz, I'll take Beetlejuice as my man. Oh man, he's the man of mine. And then she's like, what the hell? And then that's when Adam gets up, and he's like, um no, he's like the ring, and he's like looking for it. And then he's like taking out all this stuff from his pocket. And then he's like, I swear, honey, like she meant nothing
She
to
meant
me.
nothing to me.
Nothing. And then right before he puts the ring, he's like, yeah, yeah. And then Adam stands up, and he's like, Beetle. And then he's like, "Ee," and then rips out his like mouth, and then he's like,
Uh-huh.
Beetlejuice, and he's like starts stepping on
He
the
like,
jaws, and they're like dancing, right?
he like tap dancing.
And then Beetlejuice goes back, and then Barbara comes, and she's like,
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice, right?
She's
Yeah.
able to say his name fully.
And then he like zips it, and then she unzips it, her lips, and he's like,
He's
Beetlejuice.
like, Beetlejuice.
And he's like, "Ugh." He's like, "Don't."
That part where when like he like throws it and like her like mouth is like metal. I
Mhm.
thought that was really cool. Like I'm like, how do you even do that? Like make it look so real too.
Right?
Cause
Especially for
like
back then, like 1988 special
yes,
effects, right?
yeah, and
But
I'm like, that's just sad.
I
Like
know,
you
like
compare those
nowadays,
movies to our movies now, and it's just
like
like,
if you think about it, like you can even go back when we watched Terminator 2, that scene where the actor walks through the bars, but it makes it looks, the special effects look so good that it
yeah,
actually,
like
because even at the end when he walks through it, his gun gets stuck
yeah,
in the bars. So you're like, oh, how the fuck did they do that?
like it's so cool.
Hmm. And then
It's crazy.
even like the zipper on the lips, because she like unzips her lips, and they're
Yeah,
like on them,
like it
right?
looks like an actual zipper.
Uh-huh. And then Oh, right after that, that's when he sends her to Saturn, and that's when he needs
Oh
the
yeah.
ring, right?
Yeah.
That's when he needs the ring, and then he's like
Hmm.
panicking, and then Adam, he like, what happens to Adam?
I
Doesn't
think
he get
I think
shrunk? He like
yeah,
gets
and he's
shrunk into
put
the
in this
model.
in the model, but
Uh-huh.
then he takes the red truck and he like drives in that.
Oh yeah, he like takes off the pole, puts the red truck.
Yeah,
He like
and then he runs over
drives.
Beetlejuice's foot.
No, yeah, I think no, he like he's driving,
He like drives
and
off
then
the table.
I know, and he like jumps off the truck, and like the truck hit as soon as it hits Beetlejuice's foot, it just blows up, right?
We got 10 minutes.
Yeah, I know. It blows up, and then Beetlejuice is like, ah, and then Barbara comes in with the sandworm and eats him.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the end where like the mom and dad finally see Barbara
Yeah,
and Adam, and like
and
they
Adam.
smile at each other, and then
They're
Lydia
like,
smiles because she's like, oh, they're friends now.
they're like,
And then
yay!
Lydia comes home from school. You see that they remodeled the house back to the way the family
Back to
liked
the
it.
way it was. Yeah,
Uh-huh. And then she got a C in science because she didn't want to dissect the frog.
yeah.
And then an A in math, right? And
She
then
kind of like tricks Adam because like he's like, there's no way like we've been studying that
all
for like a
week,
week,
yeah.
all week.
She's
And then
like, I
she's
got
like,
an
just
A.
kidding, I got an egg.
And then he's like, so can I? And then he's like, I don't know, you got a
Oh,
C
we
in
have to
the
see about
science
that
grade.
science grade.
And then she's like, Adam, like you
You
never
never
been
got
good
it.
at science in school, in
Yeah.
high school. And then he's like, so then that it kind of shows that they're high school sweethearts.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lydia's like, so can I? And then he's like, and then Adam like
I
he like
guess.
moves his glasses. He's like, I guess, and he
Like,
looks at the chair,
like,
and then it starts rocking. Yeah, he's like,
dun, 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 dun.
and
Yeah.
then it goes up to the dead, and I like how he's reading another
Oh yeah.
handbook, but
Yeah.
it's like a magazine instead,
Yeah.
and it's like for the living and the dead,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's written by the same person that wrote for the recently deceased, right? And he's like reading it, and then um he's like, oh, Lydia got an A like on the math test again, because I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's what they do, right? And
Yeah.
then the mom scares the dad with a sculpture
With
of
the
Beetlejuice.
sculpture of Beetlejuice as a
Yeah.
snake.
And then he's like, he likes it. And then it goes back to Lydia, and she's like, shake.
Charlie.
It goes back to the waiting room with
Mm-hmm.
Beetlejuice. And his case is so bad that like it shows his
He's like
appointment
number like
nine
three
nine
bajillion
like
bajillion.
9 billion, 9 million something, right? And he's like, because he like looks at like serving now, and
He's like,
it's like 0203, right? So he like looks around, and then
he's like,
at first doesn't he tell like the voodoo guy like how like I like your work, because he's pointing at the hunter at what he did.
yeah,
And then he like looks at his number, and I thought this was so funny. He looks at his number, and then he's like, hey, like I like your work. Hey, yo, Elvis, yo, King. And he like
yeah.
tosses his ticket and then takes
And
his, and then he's
like
like,
he's not gonna notice.
I know. And he's like, oh, well, I guess
I
I'm
guess I'm
next.
next.
Yeah. And then the guy like gets the
He's like,
sprinkles and like, and then he's like,
he's
hey,
like,
hey,
hey,
what are you
hey,
doing?
hey, what's
Hey,
going on?
what's going on? What are you doing? He's like, hey, this might actually be good for my hair. And then, and it goes back to Lydia dancing, and that's when the football players like manifest, and they're like
Yeah,
dancing with her on the
it's a
stairs.
yeah.
Hmm. And then like she does like one final pose, and like the song, it goes to the credits, but the song keeps playing along with like what it
Hmm.
was going with in the credits.
Yeah,
It's such a fun movie. It's such a fun movie.
it
I was
really
also
is.
I was talking to you about this yesterday when we had finished watching it, about what it was like for people that saw it in theaters in
That would have
1980,
been so cool.
right?
Like they're so lucky.
I know. Especially like 80s people like seeing all those
Oh
movies
my
come
God.
out. Like, and
Like it
then
would have been like if we could see those now, like
or like
we might sit on some popcorn.
even if they like re-release them in theaters like that,
Yeah,
that'd be fun, but they don't do that anymore, really.
no.
Mm-mm.
And if they do, it's with
Like
like
only certain theaters in the world are like,
yeah, And then again, it's not all movies. It's just like Jaws and like
Yeah.
things like that. But
And it only
dang.
happens on like their anniversaries, like one day out of the
Hmm.
year, you know?
And then if you miss it, you're just like that sucks for
Gotta
you.
wait till next year, I guess, right?
Literally, next anniversary.
Right, exactly. And then was a part that we're in, oh, I had mentioned to you about how like the song, like I bet people that saw it in theaters, like they came out the theater like shake, 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 Sonora. Like,
Literally, they're like dancing. They're dancing.
right? And then what else? Oh yeah, that we learned about Beetlejuice's banishment that I never knew of. Um
Yeah.
um
It would be cool if they made kind of like a backstory on Beetlejuice, on like
yeah.
how he became Beetlejuice.
And then at the end, like
'Cause-
uh, it'd be cool like if it showed all that, and then at the end he gets like banished, and then like it's like 600 years later or something like that, right? And then
Mhm.
he's like chilling in his house and he like picks up the newspaper and he sees like the couple, and
Yeah.
then like because he's like living in like a different model, and then
Mhm.
he's like, huh. So then he like snaps his fingers, and then or like he like it shows him like get he like starts walking, and he ends up in their house and he like sneaks into
Yeah.
their model, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, and then he's just chilling there, and then that's when like um he's like, oh no, like that'd be really cool. Now I feel like the ending should just be like he's chilling in the model, right? Or like he's chilling at wherever he's banished, and then he grabs the newspaper and he's reading through it like in the first one, and he sees the couple, and that's how like it ends, and you're like, oh,
That,
and then that's how the
yeah.
next movie starts.
Mhm.
That'd be really cool.
That would be really cool.
Or like how people
I
want
like
a
that.
prequel for Coraline to show how like the
Yeah.
Beldam happened, and like the little ghost kids,
Yeah. That'd be really cool.
and like how it learns about Coraline before she even moves in, because it makes a doll of
Mhm.
her, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be that'd be awesome. But yeah,
That would be.
that's our podcast of Beetlejuice. I hope you enjoyed, and that's all, folks.
That's all.
Shake, 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 Nora, shake your body later.
Oh,
What, Nora? Shake it all the time. All right, bye bye.
deuces.
Deuces.